Good morning, students. I am Dr. Amrita Tyagi and I will be taking your paper, Literature and Cinema. Students, literature and cinema both are very important and significant forms of art. You may think that literature is something different, cinema is something different. You must read books, you must read cinema. Cinema means here movies. You must go to cinema hall to see movies. But both are, interrelated to each other, both the forms, whether it is art or it is literature or it is cinema. Here I would like to quote cinema, literature, and art. Okay, so when it comes to understand the definition, or when it comes to understand the meaning of you know a book to movie adaptations, because what we are going to study in this paper, we are going to study book to movie adaptations. Now you can ask me, ma'am, what is a book to movie adaptation? So I would like to define it that when any text, right, whether you can say any text or any incident in the history is developed into a movie, it is known as book to movie adaptation or history to movie adaptation. But as this paper is about literature and cinema, so I will be taking more and more examples, I will be discussing more and more about a book to movie adaptation. So I would be focusing my lecture on how a book is developed into a movie. Now I hope that you understand the meaning. So what is a book to movie adaptation? And what is to define the relationship between literature and cinema. So when a piece of literature, right, when a piece of literature, when a text, whether it is a novel, it is a poem, it is a play, is developed or transformed into a movie, this is known as a book to a movie adaptation, right? And this is what we understand by establishing a relationship between literature and cinema, right? Although if you don't take it as just to develop a piece from one form of the art to another form of the art, so it is just it is a transformation from one form of the art to another form of the art. But we can also, in general, we can also discuss what is how does one art form influences another art form. How does it influence? Okay, and what is the relationship between two forms of the art? As I told you in the starting, that both the forms of the art are very important and significant in your life. Even you can you can see back that you even if today you love to go to cinema hall to watch movies, and when you get time, you again love to read a piece of literature. You must have read many plays of Shakespeare, if I am not wrong, because till 12th standard, at least one play of Shakespeare you must have read. And I would like to tell you here that most of the plays of Shakespeare have already been developed into movies. Okay, so I would like to take one example here, a very recent example from cinema, and this cinema is based on a play of Shakespeare, and the name of the cinema is Heather. You must have seen Heather. It's commercially as well as it is critically a very acclaimed movie. Critics loved it, and as an audience, I also love this movie. This is a movie where you will have Shahid Kapoor and Taboo. Taboo plays the role of the mother of Hamlet. Okay, so Hamlet is a very popular play, and it is not the very popular play. It is one of the best plays by Shakespeare, right? I would say that you would even surprised to know that this is the only play in the history which is prescribed in each and every university of the world, whether for PG students or UG students, right? So this is the height of popularity of this play, and this play, I think it is Vishal Bhardwaj. Vishal Bhardwaj, adapted this play into a movie. So if you have not seen this movie yet, I would recommend you to see it and then read the play. Then only you will understand what is the difference between literature and cinema, and how a work of literature is developed into cinema. Right. So in this context, I would like to show you or to discuss with you some of the finite examples of book to movie adaptations in Bollywood. Right. And I would also like to tell you that it is since the inception of the cinema that most of the filmmakers have been allured and attracted toward popular text by some popular authors. I would like to take example of George Bernard Shaw. Many plays of George Bernard Shaw have already been adapted into movies or screenplays in Hollywood and in Bollywood. Another example is coming to my mind is Charles Dickens. You must have heard Great Expectations, one of the best novels by Charles Dickens. Even I would say that the best novel by Charles Dickens. Great Expectations, is also, very recently it was used to make a movie. It was adapted in a movie. I don't remember the name of the movie. No, 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 it is Fitur. So, Great Fitur movie, if you have seen, it is based on a novel by Charles Dickens. The name of the novel is Great Expectations. And Great Expectations is a very, very popular novel by Charles Dickens. Right. So this is how we can, see this. We can see how a work is developed into a movie, and this is how we can understand the similarities and differences between a book and when it comes to a movie. I would not say that a filmmaker just, the filmmakers just copy the idea and copy the story and paste into the stage. There are certain techniques which they use to develop. So I would say here that if you read a text, then you see a movie. So I will say that there would be differences between movie and the text on one level, and second is that the film is a different genre. Text is a literature is a something different, and the movie which is developed from a text, it is something different. You're getting my point, that movie is something different, a text is something different, and when a text is developed into a movie, it is something different. So it is a different form. That's why we have movie literature and movie adaptation, right? So what do you understand now, that a movie can be a movie can be developed out of a text and out of an incident in the history. So is it clear to you now? I hope. Okay, so I would proceed to discuss some important examples, and I would take all the examples from Bollywood as it is my first lecture. I'm going to Hollywood. I'll go to Hollywood later on. And second thing, before proceeding with examples, I would like to tell you objectives of today's lecture. So you would be knowing through this lecture, you would be knowing the concept of a movie adaptation and concept of this paper, why we are studying the relationship between literature and cinema. Secondly, you would be familiar in today's lecture, you would be familiar with some finest examples of book to movie adaptations uh, in Bollywood, Hindi cinema, right? So, next slide. This is these are some examples I would like to cite here. So I would start from Shakespeare, and I would be happy to inform you and to share with you that Shakespearean plays are not only adapted into movies. You would have staging of all the plays of Shakespeare, and even cartoon development of Shakespearean plays. You would be having screenplays of Shakespearean plays, and you would also be having stories, so many stories from children from Shakespearean plays. Okay, so this is how you can understand how a text is developed into many other forms of the art. So a text can be developed into a movie, a text can be developed into a screenplay, a text can be developed into a theatre. And it is not so that a play can only be developed into a movie. A novel can also be developed into a movie. It can be transformed into a movie. A poem, even a poem can be. So I would take example of the poem. You must have heard the name of. You are now in your post graduation, so you must have heard the name of Homer Odyssey. Even many incidents, because Odyssey is an epic. So entire epic cannot be developed into one movie. It is really very difficult task. Here I would like to match up with another example. It is from Ramayana. It is an epic, and many movies have been, developed from Ramayana, from different incidents in this epic. Similarly, the case with Mahabharata. Okay, so as similarly, you will have so many movies from Odyssey. Okay, so a poem can also be. My point is, what is my point? Point is that only play can not only be developed into a movie. You can transform a poem into a movie. You can transform a novel into a movie. We have a lot of examples where a novel is developed into a movie. I would like to take example of this Great Expectations. I have just cited an example with you that Great Expectations has been developed into a movie. An example is Fitu and Pride and Prejudices, a novel by Jane Austen. It was also developed into a movie, and name of the movie is Bride and Prejudices. I don't remember the exact name actually. Okay, so I have taken some examples from Shakespeare and I would like to start with Omkara. Omkara is one of the finest book to movie adaptations and made by Bollywood filmmakers. Omkara actually is the story of somebody who is jealous of something, and his jealousy is resulted finally into a tragedy. All the major characters are killed towards the end or in the end just because of the jealousy of a single person. And before discussing another second example with you, I would like to tell you something about Shakespeare. That Shakespeare is known for displaying very general and very common human feelings, and it is also believed by us all that Shakespeare is the master of human affairs or human behavior, of human nature. When you go through the plays of Shakespeare, you will see that he did not leave even a single emotion, single human affair. He did not spare. He wrote on all the emotions and feelings and problems of human or human nature. That's why we are discussing Shakespeare eventually. Shakespeare was writing, he was born and brought, he was born and he was writing during 16th and early 17th century, but still we are studying Shakespeare. Still we are discussing Shakespeare. This is the true value of an artist. He's the master. He's the master of human behavior. And he did not leave even a single aspect of human behavior untouched. When you read his plays, even what is the importance of Shakespeare? What is the value of Shakespeare? Whenever you read Shakespeare, you feel that story is going on before you, that it is happening today. Similarly, Othello, I just told you that jealousy of somebody. Jealousy is a very common, phenomena, isn't it? You are jealous of somebody. You are jealous of something. You may be jealous of even somebody's, nature, somebody's, fortune, somebody's achievements, and somebody's wife, as here in Othello, or success, or many more reasons may be here. Second example I have taken here, it is again from Shakespeare, and name of the work I'm going to discuss, it is Makbul. It's a movie, and it is though not very hit commercially, not very successful commercially, but it's a critically acclaimed movie. It is liked by the critics and it is rated with 5. Makbul is all. I also like this movie very much. Actually, Makbul is Macbeth. Actually, it is based on his play Macbeth. And in Macbeth, Macbeth is one of not one of my favorite. It is my favorite from Shakespeare after Hamlet. Second favorite, I can say. So in Macbeth, it is the inordinate desire to become, you know, somebody, to become rich, and you can say a human thirst for power. You must have heard a proverb. It is very common, in our society, that power corrupts, and same is the case with this play and with this movie. There is a character in the movie Makbul who wants to compete his godfather. Okay, and in the play, Macbeth is the general in the in the state of in the state Scotland. I think it is the story. It is set in Scotland, and King Duncan is the king of the state, and Macbeth wants to become the king. There are certain, conditions, there are certain, circumstances and certain, predictions actually in particular, which stimulates. There are certain predictions by some, witches, and that he can become the king. And then he shares this prediction with his wife, and this is here. This plays very near to me. Actually, during 16th century, no one than Shakespeare could think of having a female. I'm not saying heroine, a female hero, because during 16th century, hero is the hero. No place for heroine. You are not in 20th century in this play. Hero means hero, leading role, no leading heroine. So Lady Macbeth, actually, no name is given to her. It can be a question of discussion or debate. It can be a question of debate. You can discuss why Shakespeare did not give a name to Lady Macbeth. Why she is known only Lady Macbeth. Right. So women can feel offended by this concept that a woman is known by the name of her husband. I don't have any problem with this. Even feminists do not have any problem with this. But this can be a question. Why? She can be given a name. What do you think? Yeah, she can be given a name. She is not. But still, I would say that she is a very powerful character in this play. She is even more powerful than her husband. She is more arrogant. She is more determined. And this is not the ambition of Mr. Master. When you read the play, you will see that when you go through the play, you will realize that this is not the ambition or inordinate desire of Mr. Macbeth that is resulted into the final tragedy and the doomsday, but it is the ambition of Lady Macbeth. Okay, but again, I will say this is again the question of discussion whether Macbeth or Lady Macbeth responsible for the final tragedy. So when you read the play or when you see the movie, it is up to you to decide who is the hero, who is the heroine, and who is the culprit, and who works as a terrorist in this, who is responsible for the tragedy. Okay, second example, let's discuss. It is Heather, again from the greatest playwright in the history of English literature, Shakespeare. It's Hado. I cited an example in the very starting that very recently this text is used to make a very successful movie, Heather, and Shahid Kapoor performed very, very, remarkably in this movie. His performance is very powerful in this movie. I'm not going to discuss the story and other aspects of this movie. I will discuss this movie in detail in my lecture later on. Okay. Another example I would like to take from an Indian novelist, R.K. Narayan. I think you must have not read him. I won't say that you must have read it. R.K. Narayan, although a very a very important writer in Hindi literature, but you might have not read him in English literature. Actually, he is an Anglo-Indian writer. He is an Indian who is writing in English. Okay. So there is a movie Guide, and I won't say that you might have seen this movie because it's very old one. Even I saw it later on. My father recommended me to see this movie. The name of the movie is Guide, with the same name, you know, uh, novel का जो नाम है, it is with the same name. So guide means somebody who supervise or guides the people to understand something, to see something, to visit something. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss the story. I will be discussing it later. Lutera is a very recent development in this, in this field, where a text is transformed into a movie. It is an artistic transformation from one genre to another one. Right, Shatranj Ke Khiladi. It's very, very a beautiful movie. It is from it is from the novel which is written by Munshi Premchand. Okay, so it's again a very famous novel, but this movie is very famous, and I would say that the movie is to some aspect better than the no original novel. So Shatranj Ke Khiladi, I would like to discuss the story, although it is an old one. Okay, we'll discuss it later, I think. Namesake, recent development. It's by Jhumpa Lahiri. Jhumpa Lahiri with the same. Worry, I'm coming to the next slide. So there is a picture. Can you see it? Uh, this is a lady director, and this is the book you can see, and there is an eye. And how would she define this particular picture? The world that only a dreamer can find. Let's escape it. So, what you do when you read a story and when you see a movie, you go into a world which is created by a dreamer, and only a dreamer can create this world. Okay, so that is the art. Even if you see a painting, there is a story. If you see a painting, you see the world which is created by an artist through his brushes. In a piece of literature, you see the world which is created by an author, the world of an author. In a movie, you see a world which is created by a filmmaker, world of a filmmaker. Okay, so as it is written here, since the inception of cinema, literature has attracted all creative filmmakers in India. Pioneers like uh, Parmit Barua and Devki Basu. There are a lot of examples, but I would like to discuss here. Satyajit Ray. So it is since it has been since the starting of the cinema that filmmakers have been attracted towards popular text, popular authors for their stories, right? And Satyajit Ray is one of the primary filmmakers who took many stories from novels and from plays and from works of literature to create his own work. So it is not just copying a story from a text and taking it into the movie. It is something different. So as I told you that a movie is something different, a text is something different, and a book to movie adaptation is something different. You will understand it when I will be discussing with you the techniques which are used to transform a text into a movie. So in my next slide, in the current slide, I will be discussing with you how literature and cinema are interrelated to each other. So, modern life is very complex. When you go back to 18th, 16th, 17th century, you will see the stage performances of the plays. Right. So, but in modern times, cinema has replaced theatre. Do you understand the difference between theatre and a movie? Theatre and cinema. In theatre, you witness live, but in a movie, it is projected. Everything is, you know, everything is recorded. Then recording is shown. But in a theatrical performance, everything goes in front of you, and there is no chance of the correction of the mistakes. So a theatrical performance is always more enjoyable and more powerful and more and influences the people in a very greater way, and it is greater than the performance you can see or you see in a movie, right? So as I told you in the very starting of my lecture that obviously, literature and cinema both are interrelated to each other, and both depend, one depends on another one for stories, for other references, for inspiration. It is not so that only text, you know, movies are inspired, from text. Many, works in literature, even text and literary artists get influenced by certain movies. There will be many examples I will be discussing later on, but we will be having few examples. We have more examples of the movies where a text is developed into a movie. Okay, so you see in this picture it was, I have taken it from somewhere to show a filmmaker. It is a picture of a filmmaker who is moving into a book and taking the words. Okay, literature and cinema, both have similarities and differences, and although in both the cases artists express themselves and disclose their imagination to the audience, but expectations of the audience are entirely different from an artist and from a filmmaker, right? Because an artist shows his or her imagination to his or her reader, I would not say audience, to readers, through the voice only. He or she, an author, has very limited, limited equipments. I would say limited, limited tools to show and to disclose his or her imagination to his or her readers. But a movie maker or a filmmaker has a lot of equipments, a lot of tools, a lot of ways to disclose his or her imagination to its audience. And it is here I would like to discuss visual art. Movie is one of the examples of visual art, right? Because visuals are more important and strong. You must have seen a movie Drishyam, have you? I would like to cite one example from this movie. In Drishyam, in one of the scenes, Taboo says that, oh, visuals have greater impressions on the minds of the people. That's why they are not lying. Actually, whatever they are saying, they must have done, but on a different day, because they experienced the visuals, so they are not lying and they are confident. Okay, with this scene, I would like to end today. I would continue with the same slide in my next lecture. And I would say, I would recommend even to see the movies which we have discussed in this lecture. Then you would, and read the, text. Then you will be able to understand my lecture, and it will be more comprehensive to you. The concept would be more, concept will be clearer to you. Okay, so see at least one movie and read the related text. So I would recommend today to see Heather and read the play. It will take time. So just go through the, summary. You can go through the summary. Internet facility you must be having. So see the movie, then go through the summary, then try to understand the relationship between this movie and the text it is based on. Thank you so much. Questions I can have for you. They